I believe personally that the fundamentals of the business are important. People do have to know the business. They do have to know products. They do have to know how to do a business opportunity meeting, how to explain the products and whatnot. But more important than all of that, in my view, is helping people develop the right mindset to be successful in this business. How people think is everything. How people establish expectations and work towards accomplishing those expectations and know how to overcome challenges and problems and hurdles that they'll encounter, and they will, because they all do, is everything. So a very important part of the Success Formula program is going to be helping people train their minds and recognize the way they think, and recognize perhaps the way their own thought processes handicap their abilities to be successful.
Welcome to the power of thoughts. In life, you get what you think about. It's been proven time and time again to be absolutely true. Whatever you dwell on the most will ultimately become your reality. This fact can work for you or against you depending on what you think about most. People who constantly worry about their weight usually spend their entire life overweight. People who are always thinking about fitness and health usually live a fit and healthy life. Your thoughts are either tools or they're weapons. And guess what? You get to choose whether your thoughts will help you or hurt you. At this very instant, you're having thoughts. Are they negative thoughts, centering around reasons why you don't agree with the things being taught in the success formula? Or are you choosing to fill your mind with positive thoughts that reinforce these teachings? Weapons or tools? Just as there are laws that govern our physical world, like gravity, mass, and momentum, there are also laws that govern success. One of those universal laws is that what you think will determine what you believe. What you believe will ultimately determine what you achieve in your life.
William James said, back in around the turn of the 1900s, said that the greatest discovery in our time is not the electric light globe, but the fact that man or woman can become whoever they want to become. They can become whatever they think about. Okay, so what are you thinking about? What are you focusing on?
인류 역사에 생각이라는 것이 없었다면 지금도 우리는 원시 시대에 살고 있었을 것입니다. 인간의 생각은 꿈을 만들어냈고 그 꿈들은 지난 역사 위에 위대한 예술과 훌륭한 건축물들을 만들어냈으며 현재의 새로운 첨단 기술을 개발했죠. 이 모든 것이 인간의 생각에서 비롯된 것은 부인할 수 없는 사실입니다. 생각에서 만들어진 꿈이 우리를 계속 변화시키고 있습니다. 위대한 생각은 위대한 꿈을 만들어내고 우리의 사업도 그와 같은 꿈을 만드는 원리에서 완성이 되죠. 만일 여러분이 최고의 리더가 되겠다는 꿈이 있다면 당연히 여러분도 되실 수 있습니다. 자신의 생각에서 꿈을 만들고 변화를 시도하시기 바랍니다.
The power of thoughts is very important to people because the positive thinking actually gives you maximize your possibility to achieve the things, the results you want.
そのゴールにあるものに絶対たどり着くという精神力、強い精神力が私は必要だと思います。
One of the wisdom texts says that as a man thinketh, so is he. It's really true that our personalities, our very characters are defined by what goes on inside of our head when we're not forced to think about anything at all. And at the extent that we spend our bandwidth, our playtime inside of our head, thinking about things that drag us down, slow us down, defeat us, we are the seeds of our own destruction.
I think through life and every day of your life, people are going to tell you why you can't do it. The world is going to tell you why you can't do it. And if you get in the wrong habits, you'll start telling yourself why you can't do it. The people who are able to think positively, to overcome those thoughts, are the ones who consistently achieve more than the average person. So thoughts and how we think of ourselves and keeping positive and optimistic, really it is a self-fulfilling prophecy. What you think you're going to do, you are able to do.
ですから不安っていうのは全くなかったんですね。期待だけで、ですからこの仕事を僕の心で感じた時にね、その行動として現れたわけですよね。
Because we tend to attract and move in harmony with our most dominating thoughts, if we are constantly thinking about or ruminating about something negative, and when I say ruminating, what I really mean is overthinking it, over-evaluating it, over-dwelling on the negative, then that is what we just might get. Allow me to give you some examples of negative thinking that could be self-defeating. How about phrases like, I can't do it. I can't be successful in this city. I can't do anything right. I don't have the money. I'm not smart enough. Things will never change. Or, what if I fail? What if I make a mistake or embarrass myself? As a result of repeatedly thinking these types of negative thoughts, you'll eventually come to believe them, whether they are true or not. And once you believe them, they will begin controlling your life in a negative way.
Our character is perhaps composed, to be simplistic, of the thoughts we think and the deeds that we do. And if we fill our lives with negative thoughts and or negative deeds, we'll end up with a pretty negative life.
People have big dreams in their life, and sometimes they develop a secondary opinion that they can't achieve their dreams. For instance, if there's a child that wants a bicycle, and he really, really wants that bicycle, but he knows he can't have it, and he can't have it because his birthday's coming up in 3 months, and his parents don't have a lot of money, and you say to this little kid, do you want a bicycle? You go, nah, don't want a bicycle. And he doesn't want a bicycle because he's decided in advance he can't have it. And that's the way people live their life. They make decisions in advance they can't have it, so they say they don't want the dream. The belief has to come back and say, if I could have anything in my life, anything, what is it? How would I design my life? What would I have to do to create my life in the fashion that I would like to live it?
でもこのネットワークマーケティングにおけるそのゴールっていうのは自分が思い描いた通りになってるんですよね。だから人間というのは思い通りにはいかないけど思った通りにはなってるんですよね。だから例えばサラリーマンを選んでて自分が思った通りに生きれるかっていうと絶対そうじゃない。でもネットワークマーケティングの世界っていうのは自分が思い描いた通りに全てが実現していってる。要するに映画スターになりたいと思えばサクセスをしていってその資金で映画スターにもなれる。カーレーサーになりたいと思えばこのネットワークマーケティングで頑張っていって結果成功した時にカーレーサーにもなれるっていう。
I once read about a young lady named Sherry. Sherry had an experience when she gave in to her self-defeating thoughts. She said it was a childhood dream of hers to play college basketball. When the date and time arrived, she went to the university gym to try out for the 1971 women's basketball team. However, when she opened the gym door to look inside, she saw that girls were already running drills, and they were good. At that moment, a little voice said to her, "What are you thinking? You're not good enough to play ball here. You can't compete with these girls. What has gotten into your head?" She closed the door and gave herself a few moments to regain her composure. However, a few moments turned into hours as she continued pacing the hallway outside the gym, telling herself at any moment she'll go in. 3 hours later, with tryouts over, she left, having never gone in. Her dream had been dashed to pieces because she gave in to that negative self-talk. Well, 30 years later, in the fall of 2001, she was invited to speak to the female athletes of that school. As a part of her talk, for the first time ever, she shared the story of pacing that hallway outside the gym in 1971. When she finished with her remarks, the women's athletic director asked Sherry if that story about never trying out for the team was really true. When Sherry said it was, the director asked if she knew that she was the coach of the 1971 women's basketball team. Of course Sherry knew that, because she had etched the coach's name in her mind ever since then and had followed all the successful basketball teams she had ever coached. The director went on, Would you like to know something interesting about my 1971 basketball team? Sherry nodded that she would. The director continued, in all my years of coaching, it is the only year I was not able to fill my roster. We played that season, one player short. All season I kept searching for one more girl to fill out our team, but I could never find her. Maybe you can relate to an experience like that. There's a part of you that deep down believes you're great and that you can do great things. But there may also be a part of you that tries to convince you that you're not great or that you're not deserving of your dreams. I challenge you, make a choice right now to tune out that inner negative critic.
中には自分のその持っている、力とか潜在意識の中にあるものが十分に生かされてない人が多いんじゃないかと思います。私のグループの方たちの中にもね、そういう方がいらっしゃいます。ですから恥ずかしいとか私はこれはできないんじゃないかなとかというその不安を持たないで、私には絶対できると確信を持って、そして思いっきりね努力なさったらいいんじゃないかなと思います。私自身も自分でねやった後、私こんなことできちゃったんだなんて思いがけない、思ったよりその優れたその自分が見えたという時もありました。ですから自分のその力を信じて、そしてそれ以上に力が出るようにそのマインドセットっていうんですか、それをしっかりしてでやっていったら絶対に自分がびっくりするほどの自分が見つかる時があります。
The other thing she told me she learned that day was that negative thoughts will kill you every time. I was licking my wounds. I was thinking about how many rejections I had had. I was thinking that it was taking me longer than I thought it should take me. I was thinking about all the negative stuff in my life instead of focusing on, hey, you know what? If I can just talk to one more person, if I can share these products with one more person, if I can share the business opportunity with one more person, I'm that much closer to a yes, instead of focusing on all the no's that I'd received.
Most people don't survive in the business because they do not survive the negatives in the business, and that's part and parcel of life. You can't have a positive without a negative. There's a good story about an entrepreneur. He's walking across the bridge, and he looks way, way up high, and there's a guy sitting up there, and he says, "Hey, what are you doing up there?" And the man says, "You know, my life is over. I've had enough. I'm going to jump." He says, No, wait a minute. Entrepreneurs are good-hearted people. He climbs up. He says, "Let's talk about this. Tell me what your problems are. We'll sort this thing out." So he goes up there, and he listens to the man's problems for 2.5 hours, and then they both jump. Negatives can overwhelm you, so you got to make a choice of what you're going to listen to.
I recently had dinner with a friend who was writing an article for a bridal magazine. She had surveyed over 200 brides and asked them if, as they walked down the aisle, they had any worries about tripping or stumbling along the way. Of those who said it never crossed their mind, not a single one of them stumbled or fell during their wedding. Of the group who admitted it was one of their dominant thoughts as they made their way down the aisle, 19% of them tripped or fell at their own wedding. Believe me when I tell you, your thoughts ultimately predict results. The conclusion to all of the future chapters in your life have not been written yet. We know what happened in your life yesterday. So what? Those pages have been turned, and now what stares you in the face is a blank page, just waiting for you to write the next chapter. But you don't have to pick up a pen or type on a computer to fill this blank page. All you need to do is think the words, and they'll begin to appear on the paper as the script for your future. So let me assume you have, just now, in your heart and mind, made a serious commitment to retraining your brain so that you can embrace the true power of thoughts. What do you do next? Well, just like when you're striving to eat better foods, you first stop eating the junk and replace it with healthy food. Same goes for your thoughts. Start filling your mind with healthy thoughts. The next conversation you engage in, make sure you're only allowing positive thoughts and ideas in. The next time you choose a TV show, or watch a movie, or tune in a song on the radio, or pick up a magazine to read, choose to only allow healthy, positive thoughts to fill your mind. A moment ago, TJ listed some common negative words and phrases. Let's take a second right now and fix that list. Instead of saying, "I can't do it," instead say, "I can do it." By the way, I realize that for some people, the leap from can't to can is a big one. If that's you, then maybe just start by saying, I can't yet. That's still a positive step. Instead of saying, I can't be successful in this city, replace that with, other people in this city are finding success and I can too. Instead of saying, I can't do anything right, start saying, I do many things right. And instead of, I don't have the money, start saying, the money will come as I continue to work on myself. And stop saying, I'm not smart enough, and start saying, I am capable of learning anything. Please stop saying things will never change, and start saying, I can initiate change. And instead of saying, what if I fail, make a mistake, or embarrass myself? Start telling yourself, live and learn. Oh well, I'm going to keep going for it anyway.
Thoughts are what you make out of them. And for me, I'm going to tell you a real simple story that I learned from my grandmother a long time ago. Words and thoughts can make you or break you, but you control them. It's the only thing in life you can control. And I'll illustrate this with a story that happened to me with my youngest son. And I don't want to give you an idea that my son is not a kind person. He's a wonderful, wonderful son. But if I can take you back when he was about 8 years old, and he's the one that lived in an incredible, abundant life. And one day I had him and his few little friends over, and it was close to lunchtime. They had come out of the swimming pool. And all of a sudden, Gian shows up in the kitchen, and his 3 little friends were next to him. And I don't know what took over him. All of a sudden, he comes in the kitchen, he looks at me. He says, woman, makes us some lunch. We're hungry. I turned around. I smiled. I looked at him, and I said, Gian, you said, woman, makes us some lunch. We're hungry. But Mommy's ears heard. Mommy, we're hungry. Could you please make us some lunch? And Cameron, who's a year older than him at the time, he's about 9, he turned around with these big eyes and said, Mrs. Sexsmith, could you teach my mommy how to do that, please? And the power of thoughts, you control them. And I've never allowed myself, no, it doesn't matter what actions I go through, and it's not that I do not recognize reality. I'm quite aware of it, but I will control it so that I can change it for the better anytime I'm placed in a challenging situation. And I believe every single person can do the same.
The most important thing that I do for myself is maintain a positive attitude, no matter what. Oftentimes you hear people, oh, it made me unhappy, or it made me sad. Well, people really can't make you anything if you don't want to be that way. So it's up to us to be in control of our thoughts and maintain a positive attitude.
If you look at the most successful distributors in this business, you'll find that they surround themselves with positive people. When they come upon a negative person, they'll either help change that person's attitude, and if they can't help change that person's attitude, they move on. But they try to always surround themselves with positive people, people that will build each other up, people that will help each other become better, not only in this business, but to become better people in general. That's the one thing I love about our distributors. They've taught me huge lessons, and they go out and this is what they do. They create positive people, and they surround themselves with positive people so that when the negative comes in, they're not standing alone. They have other people standing with them, and of course we know that when we stand together, we're much stronger, right?
Everywhere you go, there's war and there's doubt and there's people fighting. And I don't want to see that in New Skin. I want to see it as a force for good in more ways than one. I want to see us all working toward the common goal. And if someone else has a different way of doing it, embrace it, listen to it. Realize it is a possibility, and if it's not for you, make a different choice. But it's not necessarily wrong. The people that I see successful in this business are the people that are positive. And as soon as you dwell on what's wrong with something else, you're dwelling on a negative. So rather than dwelling on that, simply listen to the message, make a decision for yourself if it's for you or not. and then proceed on.
I think attitude is the most important part. Have a positive attitude and have fun. When you have fun, you attract people. People want to join people that's happy with whatever it is they're doing. So enjoy your work. I think it's a very important element to be successful in any career.
You know, at first it's a lot of work to get rid of the negative thoughts because you got them bombarding you right and left, right and left, right and left. But then it becomes second nature. Remember when you first started to drive a stick shift and you had to think of every little step that you had to take in order to make the car go? It's the same thing. When you first start in this business, you're thinking about all of these things, and part of what you're thinking about is why it's never going to work for you. You have to totally annihilate those thoughts. And you have to just say, this is going to work for me. I'm going to make it work for me. And anytime someone says it's not going to work for me, I'm just going to do it anyway. And work for me. I mean, we became New Skin International finally. And it'll work for anyone that does it. It's so powerful. When you just start thinking, I am going to make this happen for myself, there is really nothing that can stop you unless you give up. The only thing that'll stop you is giving up.
Again, whatever you repeat over and over, you will eventually believe. Once you have a thought, you begin finding evidence in your world to make that thought true, whether it is accurate or not. Research indicates that the mind can only focus on about a half a dozen things simultaneously. Even though there may be hundreds of things going on around you, you will only be aware of a small handful. So we want to introduce to you the concept of filters or screening. This means that you're not always seeing the full picture. In fact, in order to focus on one thing, you have to delete or lock out others. The challenge is that you may be locking out or filtering out the exact information that could actually help you achieve your goals. Let's do a quick exercise. Up on the screen is a picture of a room. I want you to notice as many different items as you can that are the color blue. Now that that image is gone, tell me everything you saw that was the color red. Now, in that split moment, did you have a difficult time coming up with the items that were the color red? If you're like most people, then you probably did, at least for a second. Let's bring that picture back again and notice all the different items that are the color red that you didn't notice before. Do you see through this exercise, we filter our world? By the way, this is a survival mechanism. If you didn't have the ability to filter much of what was bombarding you on a day-to-day basis, you would probably go crazy.
Have you ever bought a new car and then all of a sudden saw a million, hey, look, there's a Volkswagen, there's a Volkswagen, there's a Volkswagen. Never really saw it before. But once you start looking for the opportunity to share, you'll be absolutely amazed at how often it comes up.
Here's how this applies to your life. If you believe you can do something or can't do something, you will continually find evidence to support that thought. The more evidence you gather that supports your thought, the stronger the belief will become. It has nothing to do with reality, but the reality you are creating, hence a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like they say, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. Because once you gather enough evidence to make something true, you either turn on that part of you that could make it happen, or you turn it off.
You know, one of the difficult things that we do in our business is public speak. For many people, that's terrorizing, and sometimes they are their worst enemies. Sometimes I'm my worst enemy. If you're going into a setting that you're a little uncomfortable with, and inside of your head you're saying, they're going to hate me, that's going to become a self-fulfilling prophecy, because you're going to go in there and be very hateable. and so you come out having performed poorly and feeling that you weren't well responded to, but you began that whole cycle. If instead you walk in saying, I love these people, and they're going to love me too. People are basically good, and I'm going to enjoy myself tonight, and they will too. And that too will become a self-fulfilling prophecy. And invariably it turns out to be the case.
Allow me to give you another way to look at this. Imagine a bridge. Let's say this bridge represents a thought or an idea. And we want to go from an idea to conviction. Play along with me. Let's imagine the thought is that you are unstoppable at building your business and that you will be successful. Initially, that random thought or idea has no legs to stand on by itself. It's just a thought, a floating bridge. But once you start gathering evidence, that initial idea can go from a thought to an opinion, which isn't that strong, but it's stronger than the initial thought, to a belief, which is stronger than the opinion, to eventually conviction, which is the strongest of all these. You can now see in this visual how stable and solid the bridge really is. So how are these columns under the bridge formed that takes an idea to a conviction? Well, it's all based on the evidence that's been gathered from various things you notice, like taking action and getting a positive result. Boom, a column. Maybe you hear something like somebody compliments you. Boom, another column. Or experience something else that adds columns or evidence.
I would say that that people really need to, first of all, believe in the products. And you believe in the products by using the products, by having an experience that says these products are working for me. And then it almost becomes an automatic situation, because if you're taking Pharmanex, you feel better, you're using Nu Skin products, you look better, and people are going to ask you, what are you doing? Why do you look so good? Or perhaps you've gone to a leadership training and gotten some insights and thinking positively. And so it really, those little things change you in those small ways, and it becomes a lot easier to share the opportunity and the products with people if you believe in them.
By the way, you're not limited to just 3 columns. Instead, once you have gathered enough evidence to turn your original idea into conviction, you will continue to find evidence in your world that supports that conviction and makes it even stronger. This is why we say be careful what you allow into your mind, because if it's negative, you just might gather enough evidence to believe it.
It's the conviction to go forward in the absence of even some data. You've got to go forward sometimes based on what's in the heart. If you've got that conviction, sometimes that's more powerful than anything else. You can actually pull people along by your strong conviction in what you believe.
Believe. But what do we believe? Believe on, number one, the product. How our product can really, help the other people and help ourselves, and you must use the product every day. You need to make sure that the product will talk, not that you talk, but the product on yourself will talk. Okay, so this is the only one way that you can build your belief onto the product. And when you can believe in your product, you would also, coming back, you will speak about the product with all your passion, because you see how the product will work on you. And then number 2 is the plan, okay? Our compensation plan, our global senior sales compensation plan. It is the plan that really unite everybody together, and believing that, this is the plan that can help so many people to improve their lives, So we are offering these business opportunities to the other people to help them to improve their life. We are not talking about using this plan to make money, okay? Making money will be the result of how you can really introduce the plan and help the other people to improve their living. And then number 3 things to believe in is the philosophy of the company being a force for good. You need to believe into the philosophy of Nu Skin Enterprises, how we really unite everybody throughout the world together to become a force for good by empowering people.
If you believe that you are capable of making something happen, and you get up and you make it happen, and you get up every day and you make it happen, you have fun doing it, you accomplish things that most people can't accomplish, and you just enjoy life. And that's what this business is all about.
We could ruminate all day about all the misery that we have or someone else has, drama in our lives, but the best way to turn that into a positive is just by thinking positive.
When I became the CEO of the company, it wasn't necessarily a job that I was seeking. And in fact, I really wasn't seeking it. And Blake and Steve almost had to twist my arm into doing it. And Blake sent me an email that essentially is a Blake Roney 1-page manual of instructions on how to be the CEO of Nu Skin Enterprises. He says, don't focus on negative stuff. Assign it to others and give them as much direction as possible, and then live on in faith. Build on positives. If something is going well, focus on strengthening those things rather than focusing on making failing things work. Pick good people to accomplish things and let them run. Good people can magically resolve things while everyone else can clearly see all the reasons things cannot be resolved. There's always going to be people in our world, in anything we do, who are going to be the can't-do people. They're always going to see the negatives. They're always going to see the downside. Blake is not one who ever sees the downside. He's so disciplined, his mind and his way of thinking, that he just refuses to dwell on the negatives and to dwell on the downside. He's one of the most optimistic, positive people I know. You know, for him, business is just overcoming challenges. We know we're going to have them. We know we're going to have problems, or we're going to have perhaps even more than our fair share. But for him, that's just part of the game. It's just part of life. The naysayers and the toxic people who come into our world are not going to go away. But we can decide how we're going to react to those people. We can decide whether we're going to let those people affect our mindset. We can decide whether we're going to let those people chase away our dreams or kill our dreams.
I know that certain people get stuck at levels and they say, oh, I'm all, you know, the Ruby, I've been a Ruby forever. Well, there's nothing wrong with being a Ruby forever either. If you have your sights set on something better, then go out and do it. Don't, you know, ruminate on the fact that you're a Ruby. Think, I'm going to be a diamond in 6 months. Move off the thought that you're only an executive or only this. If you want more for yourself, make it happen for yourself.
Recently, I was in an organization where we were talking about the power of thoughts. When midway through, a 60-year-old gentleman stood up and said, I get it, I get it. I said, you get what? He says, I get that I'm negative. What? I said. He went on to say that he noticed for the first time this morning when he came into the building that 3 people came up to him and asked, how are you doing, John? And he responded by saying, not bad for an old guy. He said it dawned on him that he must have started saying, not bad for an old guy, about 3 years ago, and it has just become a habit in his speech. Curious, I asked him how the self-talk was affecting him. He said, I noticed that when I walk around, I walk like an old guy, slouched over. Now, let me just point something out. 60-year-old is not old. In fact, one thing I believe is that age has more to do with the mindset than anything else. But he said, I don't need to walk like that, slouched over. I can choose to walk like this. And he started walking around the room as tall as he could. So as you can see, thoughts can even affect the way you carry yourself.
You know, if you can control your thoughts and channel your thoughts, then you've got it made. Really, I mean, that's the truth, you know, because what happens is thoughts lead to actions. Whatever people think about all the time, they will eventually act on. That's true. And your actions done consistently enough form your habits. They become habits. When you repeat those actions enough times, they will become habits in your life. And your habits fix your destiny. That's what happens. So it is really, really important that you don't let junk in your brain. It's really important you read good things, you do good things, you think good things.
Once you've set your mind to do something and refused to let other ideas interfere with that decision, you've created a snowball effect. As long as you stay on that path. And if you stay on that path with every single positive thought that you can conjure up, that you're going to succeed, that it's going to happen for you.
For some people, the idea of switching negative thoughts with positive thoughts sounds like quite a difficult task. Because for some people, negative thoughts are almost automatic. They've become second nature. But I have great news for you. You can choose to make positive thoughts your new second nature. Here's how. When you catch yourself thinking negatively, replace that negative word or picture with a more empowering one. Then replay that new positive picture or thought several times throughout the day. Give yourself 3 to 4 weeks of doing this consistently, and mark my words, you will have created a new, more positive thought pattern. Thinking positively will begin to be second nature for you, and then just watch how your life begins to change.
Napoleon Hill said, "You can be anything you want to be if you only believe with sufficient conviction and act in accordance with your faith. For whatever the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve." Truer words have never been spoken. As most people who know me will tell you, I have a pretty low tolerance for negative people. I've found that one of my personal success strategies has been to surround myself with positive people who speak positive words and take positive actions. The wonderful people you just heard from have had amazing results in their businesses and in their lives, and each of them make a practice of centering their minds and their vocabulary around powerful thoughts and positive words. The power of thoughts is the third essential ingredient in the success formula. So based on what you have just seen and heard, take a moment right now and write down some of the negative words or thoughts that you might use from time to time. After you write them down, stare at that list for a few moments. Then make a firm promise to yourself to do your very best to never think or say those negative words and phrases ever again. Wipe them from your vocabulary and replace them with powerful, strong thoughts, as thoughts predict results. And remember to watch this video often, as repetition is a powerful tool in changing the way our minds think and react. Your next ingredient in the success formula will arrive soon. I'll see you then.
Muy bien, ¿qué les pareció? ¿Qué les pareció? Vamos entonces unos breves minutos para la reflexión del tema, siendo las 4:39. Todavía nos quedan 21 minutos. Entonces, díganme si se escucha bien y arranco a mirar quién tiene manito levantada. ¿Qué fue lo que les dejó este poder del pensamiento? ¿Qué fue lo que les recordó? Creo que todos hemos escuchado, pero una cosa es haberlo escuchado y otra cosa que, gracias, hola mi Carmen, que realmente tengamos más bien como una práctica, ¿no? Que nosotros practiquemos eso. Déjenme a ver, es que no puedo aquí prender porque está en la cosa de la casa, ya se ve en el fondo todo. Entonces, pero estoy aquí súper pendiente. Yo creo que Claudita que es mi reflexiva estrella, ya se coge la cabeza como no puede ser. Pero todos, por favor, así sea una sola frase, una sola reflexión, ¿qué me queda de esto? ¿Qué fue lo que más me llamó la atención? ¿Qué es lo que yo a partir de hoy voy a tomar como una práctica para mi vida? Porque no tiene sentido ver solamente pues videos chéveres, hay muchos y eso sí les garantizo que videos, películas y de todo podemos encontrar. Pero cada vez que hacemos un evento, y esto es un evento, las preguntas claves después de esto son dos. Una, ¿qué aprendí? Y dos, ¿qué decisión tomé? Y si no tenemos una cosa sobre eso, pues no hemos hecho nada. Entonces, escucho o veo manitos levantadas. ¡Yujú! Ahí estás. Dale. Que me espere.
Buenas tardes. Buenas tardes, Glorita, y a todos. Pues muy interesante el tema. Yo creo que es supremamente importante el tema de los pensamientos.